Hi, I'm Christy and welcome back to my channel. In today's video, I'm here with my December mid-month reading wrap-up. First off, I can't even believe we're at the middle of December already, the last month of 2023. This is wild. I can't believe it. We're almost to Christmas. I can't wait. But let's talk about my reading for the month. So far for this month, I have read 21 books and we are going to quickly go over them all. Of course, as always, if you ever want to see more of my thoughts or my full reviews on any of the books that I read or talk about, I do review every book that I read on Goodreads, and that is always linked in the description of all of my videos. So with all of that out of the way, we're going to quickly run through these 21 books. There's been some hits, there's been some misses, a bunch of holiday reads. Let's get into it. First up, I read Holly Jolly Cowboy by Jessica Clare. This is part of the Wyoming Cowboy series that I have been reading for the last month, I guess. I've been reading all the cowboy Christmas romances in this one, and this one was a lot of fun. I gave it 4 stars. This whole series is available on Hoopla, so that's how I've been listening to them. Basically, this just delivers on all of the like Western cowboy Christmassy vibes that I want. So this one is a hate-to-love romance with a very grumpy hero. Basically, the heroine is a waitress in town, and the hero is a grump who comes in and eats at the diner where she works, and he kind of goes out of his way every time to leave her just $1 for a tip. The heroine is kind of needing money. She's always dreamed of opening her own bakery one day, but she's lacking money. She needs money for bills. She needs money for life. Ends up taking up this offer of another job for the holidays by working at the local ranch and providing food for the ranch hands, which is where the hero works as a ranch hand. So when the story starts and she shows up at the ranch to work, he kind of like makes a comment about her food and all of that. So she decides, you know what, you're just going to get sandwiches then. Like, I'm not going to cook any of the like food and the meals and the desserts I'm making for the rest of the cowboys. Like, you get a simple sandwich every day. So they're both super stubborn, and he is the most stubborn and grumpy hero. Like, he is unwilling to apologize to her first, even though he's like salivating over these delicious meals she's cooking for all of the other ranch hands. And then he ends up kind of acting out and decides to wreck one of her dessert bakes that she has in the fridge one night. He didn't realize that that was one of her entries for a baking competition the next day, ruining her chances at this baking competition, and feels horrible. And so he starts to kind of try to make amends or be nicer to her, and along the way he starts to fall for her as well. But the whole time, this kind of like guilt of what he did and ruined her bake is kind of hanging over the head of their whole relationship, because we know, he knows, but the heroine of course doesn't know. So like, you know what the conflict is going to be the whole time. So yeah, for what it was just a fun time. Definitely a super grump of a hero. So yeah, just know that going in. Gave it 4 stars though. Next up, I read Snowden by Catherine Walsh, and I love this one so much. I gave it 5 stars. I read this author last year with her book Holiday Romance, which that one I really enjoyed, but this one I loved even more. This one starts off with the heroine actually being a runaway bride from her own wedding, and we catch up with the heroine 5 years later, and she's not looking forward to going back home to her small little village for the holidays. She's not looking forward to all the questions about her relationship. Like, she actually hasn't been back home since she left her groom at the altar all those years ago. She recently got dumped for the 4th time this year. She just found out that her ex-fiance, the guy she left at the altar, is now engaged again, and so she's just like, I'm not trying to go back home. This one actually takes place in Ireland, which I loved. Definitely check out the audio if you can, because the Irish accents are so good. And the heroine is at a pub when she runs into the hero, who is actually one of her older, like, kind of childhood friends, / they weren't really friends, but they grew up in the same village. They know one another. They went to high school together, all of those things. Hero actually hates being single for the holidays as well, because he kind of gets these like pitiful, sad eyes from his family. So he decides to come up with this idea that they should go back together and pretend they are together. This one was just so cute and swoony. I loved how the hero is super caring and protective of the heroine. Definitely check this one out. Like I said, the audio is amazing with the Irish accents. So good. This author has easily become a new like favorite of mine for holiday romances. Next up is Out on a Limb by Hannah Bonham Young. I love this one so much and gave it 5 stars. This is easily my new favorite from this author. I've read, I think, all of her books now, and this one, yeah, it's definitely a favorite. Basically, in this one, it's an accidental pregnancy, which we know from the beginning of the story. The couple ends up meeting at a Halloween party, and they hook up thinking that's all it is like a one-night stand, and then she actually ends up becoming pregnant. So we kind of see this like pregnancy journey for the both of them when they decided to kind of stick it out together and figure out, you know, what they're going to do for this child that they want to co-parent. So it kind of goes from there. It's a very slow burn. It turns into this like friends to lovers, and it's just so beautiful, so good. It like literally feels like a warm hug. Like, I loved this book so much. It's so sweet. This one has so many like quiet, sweet, tender moments of seeing them become friends, and that joy of like becoming a parent for the first time, falling in love. Like, their friend group is so great. I love the relationship with the hero and his father. Just so good. I love these two so much. Like nothing was wrong with this book. I adored it so much. Next up is The Christmas Wager by Holly Cassidy, and this one I ended up giving it 3/3.5 stars. This one definitely felt like a Hallmark movie. The audio was fun, but like there wasn't a lot of like anything extraordinary with it, if that makes sense. Basically, in this one, the heroine hates Christmas. The hero loves it. She's actually in his small town for work. She's trying to get the hero's grandfather to sign over his Christmas store to her boss, who wants to like take it over and change it into something else. So she's there just to get all the paperwork signed. But when the hero catches wind that his grandfather was going to sell the store, he's like not having it. He loves working at the store and it means so much to him. So he decides to try to get the heroine to offer more for his grandfather's property, and like thinking that she's not going to do it and like it won't sell. And so he decides to have this like Christmas wager as well. There's like this town annual like competition kind of thing going on. So he decides that she should enter and kind of go up against him and see who wins. It was just very like classic rivals to lovers, this very like classic small town, kind of have to save the Christmas store that's failing. It is closed door, so just know that going in. But yeah, it was okay. It was cute. I think I had the audio from Hoopla or Libby. So I mean, it's a cute time for a listen, but it wasn't anything that I'll remember next year. Except I read Caution to the Wind by Ren Darling, and this is the long-awaited 7th book in the Fallen Men series, which is an MC series, and this one was so good. I gave it 5 stars. I will say, though, this book definitely was very long, and it was both needed, but also kind of put me into a slump while I was reading it. Like, it took me forever to finish this book. I have no idea why, but yeah, so while I was reading it, I was both loving it and also wanting it to be over. So I don't know, I still give it 5 stars. Like, it's amazing, it's good, it's so different than some of her other relationship dynamics. I loved being back with all these characters. I loved her writing, but at the same time, like, I was ready for it to be over so that I could move on to other Kindle reads. So I don't know, take that for what it is. Still 5 stars, still loved it. Except I read Among the Heather by Samantha Young. So I had read the first book in this Highlands series last month, which was Beyond the Thistles. I loved that one and was so excited for book 2, which just came out this month. So this one sadly didn't work for me as well. I gave it 3.5 stars. This one, there were definitely moments that I liked in here. Basically, this is a romantic suspense series. It's set in Scotland at this estate for kind of celebrities or wealthy people. This one, I just had a harder time with the heroine, and I didn't connect with some of the things happening in the story or with the couple, but also like celebrity couples or characters aren't really always my favorite thing to read about, so that could have played a part in it as well. So take my review for what it is, I guess. Basically, in here, the heroine is the daughter of kind of Hollywood royalty. Her father's a famous director. Her mother was a model, but she was kind of tired of the LA life, so she left that behind and moved to Scotland, where she is the manager. She kind of runs this estate where it is for celebrities to escape to. And so that is how she gets tangled up with the hero, who is actually an actor who some things are revealed from his past that come back up, and PR is a nightmare for him. So he ends up coming to the estate that he's like a member of the club there and wants to just like escape. This one I did like the hero, but like I said, the heroine I had a harder time with. She basically has a ton of trust issues from her past, which I mean, totally fine, totally get it, but she just continuously would like push the hero away all the time for little things that they've already worked through, and it just happened a little too often. They kind of finally pushed through this kind of like rivals vibe and became friends. They became friends with benefits, but she'd continue to push him away any chance she got, which just kind of drove me wild. The suspense in this one just didn't work for me quite as well as the one in the first book did. So yeah, I'm still invested in the series. This one just wasn't a favorite for me. Next, I read Mangles Mistletoe by Adriana Herrera. So I read a couple of this author's holiday novellas. They're all available on Hoopla, so definitely check out there if you can, because I think her ebooks aren't available on Kindle Unlimited. But like I said, the audios are on Hoopla, or they were for me. So this one had been on my TBR kind of in the background for a couple years, and I finally got to it. And this one I ended up giving it 3 stars too. This one is a sapphic holiday romance novella. It kind of has like Great British Bake Off vibes. It's set around a baking competition in Scotland, and it has Grumpy Sunshine vibes. This one I sadly just never connected with the story or the characters. This one was just okay for me. Like, the characters and the plot kind of is one of those where it felt forgetful even while I was reading it, so it was more of like a passive listen for me. It was okay, just not for me, so I gave it 3 stars. Next, I read Ren Darling, which is another Adriana Herrera holiday novella. So this is a new one that just released this month. This is part of her Toy Runner series, and I had read the other ones I think in this novella series, so I was excited to get to this one, but sadly it just didn't work for me. I gave it 2/2.5 stars. Like I said, I had read Her Nights with Santa, which is the sapphic holiday romance part of the series a couple years ago. Really enjoyed that one. So this one I was expecting kind of the same, more of like this, you know, novella with holiday vibes and all of that. Obviously steam, but this one just reads more of just straight up erotica, which kind of, I mean, I don't have a problem with that, but like, that's not what I went into for this read. This one does have brother's best friend. There's tons of toys being used. It definitely jumps right into the action and the steam, which, like I said, I wanted just a little bit more plot with that. So that's why I had an issue with it. I mean, it is on Hoopla, so check it out if you want to, I guess. Next, I had an arc of It Should Have Been Us by Anna B. Doe, and this one I really enjoyed and gave it 4 stars. This was actually my first time reading from this author. It's the first book in a new small town series from her, and I really enjoyed it. This one is small town, a second chance, childhood friends to lovers, kind of has this like It's Always Been You vibe, and the hero is a football player as well. Hero and the heroine were high school sweethearts, so we get to see them kind of be in love back when they were in high school. We see the hero kind of leave their town right after graduation. He wanted to get away from his father, who never really saw football as a career, and the hero was obviously getting drafted into the NFL, so that's kind of a problem. And so he just wanted to escape and get out of their town. He wanted the heroine to go with him, but at the time she was like, no, I need to stay here and help out my family. So they ended up trying long distance. It didn't work out and they split up. So we catch up with him years later. He's now a successful NFL player and she's actually stayed in their hometown. And now they're both back in their hometown at the same time because they're both in their best friend's wedding. She's going to be the maid of honor and he's going to be the best man. So they find themselves having to kind of work together for the wedding's sake and all of that. This one, like I said, it was really good. It was my first time reading from this author. I liked the emotional depth we get with the characters. I liked the flashbacks. Like, it all just felt super real and I really enjoyed it and gave it 4 stars. Next, I read In Your Wildest Dreams by Rebecca Jinchak. This is the 4th book in the Wildcat Hockey series, and I really enjoyed this one. It came out just in December. I gave it 4.5 stars. This one is a hockey romance, of course. It also has the hero falling first. She also is his nurse one time. He's a patient, and it has some great found family as well. So this one starts off with the hero getting ready at a game. He is warming up on the ice, and he spots the heroine in the stands and is immediately taken by her and goes over, tries to offer her a puck. He wants her phone number, and he sees her with this like other guy, and so he keeps asking her like, are you single? Like, what's going on? And she's like, shouldn't you be like paying attention to the game or like getting ready to go play? And he's like, how can I do that when I just met my future wife right here and I need to know if she's single? Like, I was dying over that line and loved it so much. So she's like, yeah, I'm on a date and like not interested. So they kind of go their separate ways, but he's always like watching her during the game and things like that. We then cut to a month later. He actually ends up getting a concussion in a different game and ends up at the hospital where she is the nurse and she is his nurse. And he feels like it's fate that they are brought back into one another's lives. And so now that he finds out that she's single this time, he's like, oh, this is it. Like, I am all in. So this one was just so cute. She is at first kind of like, no, not interested. And he's like, well, we're going to become friends. Like, I'm going to put you in my life. So he ends up helping her out. Like, she needs a place to stay. He ends up hooking her up with one of his friends who like needs a roommate. And it kind of goes from there. Like, they just become a part of one another's lives, which I loved. And I just love them together. It does get a little complicated in here though. She does have like a toxic, abusive ex who ends up becoming the assistant to the GM of the team that he plays for. So that makes things a little bit complicated. I really enjoyed this one. I just had a great time with this book. Next up is Just for the Holidays by Adriana Herrera. So this one is on Hoopla. Again, I decided to try another holiday book from this author, and this one I really enjoyed. It's definitely my favorite from her, and I gave it 4 stars. So this one is a second chance romance. It has fake dating as well. Basically in here, the heroine is a casting director, and the hero is a successful actor. They dated in college. They are now broken up, and she is determined to make this like passion project of hers work. So she goes to him to kind of be in this film that she's trying to get done. And so they end up at his house kind of practicing scenes, and his family walks in assuming they're back together. So they decided to just play along with it while she's there trying to convince him to take this role. So they end up spending the holidays together, and it is just so good. I loved it so much. Great family time and holiday time. Really great food descriptions, like just so good. It's on Hoopla again, and definitely recommend it. Then I read Wreck My Plans by Jillian Meadows. So this is a new small town holiday romance. This has brother's best friend, and this one I actually ended up giving 3 stars to. So basically in this one, the heroine and the hero, he is friends with her brother. She was supposed to spend holidays with her friend, but ends up having to cancel that because her friend's family gets sick. So she ends up going to her family's house for Christmas. And when she gets there, they're like, oh, we weren't expecting you to come. Like, we already gave your room away to the hero, who is her brother's best friend. And so we find out from there that they kind of have this like animosity between one another. And as the story unfolds, we see exactly why and like what happened in the past with them. So this one was just okay for me. I'm still intrigued to read more from this author. This one just didn't work for me as well. I felt like the characters acted a little too young for their age. Basically, she's supposed to be 29, he's 39. And I felt like the reason for why they kind of were annoyed with one another or like what happened in the past was very immature. Maybe if they're aged down, I felt like it would have worked a little better for me. I had some issues with some other things that were brought up in the story, things that were kind of like brought up that I thought were going to be turned into something more that didn't. And so yeah, I talked more about this one in a recent like holiday novella weekend I did. So if you want to know more of my thoughts, I guess I will link that video too. So yeah, I gave this one 3 stars. It was just okay. Then I read One Week with You by J.R. Jenner. This is the debut from this author, which came out last year, and I love this one and gave it 5 stars. This is another snowed in, forced proximity, brother's best friend, grumpy sunshine holiday novella, and it was so much fun. This one is set in Scotland. Basically in this one, the heroine loses her job, loses her boyfriend when the story starts, and so she wants to spend the holidays alone, kind of away from her family because she doesn't want all the questions of like, what are you going to do next? So the hero ends up offering up his Scottish Highlands cottage to her to use, and he's like, the only caveat is I need you to act as my fake girlfriend for a holiday work party. So she goes along with it, and then when she's there, she's realizing that everybody's like, oh my god, I'm so glad he finally brought you, like he's been talking about you for years. And she's like, wait a minute, what? So she finds out that he's been pining after her, and it is just so good, so cute. They end up snowed in at the cottage together. This one just had great passion and chemistry. I loved it so much. Then I read That Christmas Kind of Feeling by Hannah Bird. This is a new holiday novella, and I really love this one as well. I gave it 4.5 stars. This one is a secret pining, kind of co-workers. They get snowed in together, and it was just so cute and so fun. Basically in here, the heroine ends up offering to pet sit for the hero. He needs to have somebody stay with his dog while he goes out of town, and his pet sitter ends up having to cancel. So the heroine's kind of wanting to avoid the holidays with her family. She has like a complicated relationship with her mother, and so she decides to step in and offer. So the hero's like getting her set up at his house, showing her everything of like how to take care of his dog while he's gone. And when he goes to leave, he actually ends up coming back into the house and is like, big problem, we're actually snowed in and I'm not going anywhere. This one was just so fun. It takes place like over the weekend. They're snowed in together. They lose power. They both kind of admit their feelings for one another, and the hero is just so sweet and so cute. I really love this one. It had me swooning. It had me smiling. Definitely recommend it. Next, I read The Office Guest by Whitney G. This is a new one that just came out this month as well. It's a holiday novella. This one I sadly did not enjoy, and I gave it 2 stars. Basically, this was said to be like a hate to love. She has to hire a fake date for the holidays, and her former boss who fired her shows up as her date. So that sounded so good. I was totally in, and sadly, it just super fell flat for me. This one was very overdramatic, super over the top with the rom-com, like next level rom-com, like out of what I enjoy rom-com. This one just felt like the pacing and the tone of the whole story felt super off. I honestly felt like I was reading a different book than what it was described as, because it felt nothing like the synopsis. So yeah, sadly this one didn't work for me. I have enjoyed books from this author in the past, but this one just was not it. Next, I read The Christmas Swap by Talia Samuels. This one was on Hoopla and Libby, so definitely check it out there. This one though I gave 3 stars to. It's a new sapphic holiday romance. I hadn't heard the best things going into it, but I decided to give it a try anyways. I was doing this like list video, which I think you'll see soon. So yeah, this one was on there, and I gave it 3 stars. This one's basically where the heroine is fake dating this guy. He goes home with him for the holidays, and then she ends up falling for his sister there instead. It's definitely a setup I've read before that I have enjoyed more in other books. So yeah, this one was just okay. Like the connection and the chemistry between the characters, I just never felt it. Like it was all right, but definitely not a favorite. Next, I read If You Gave a Grump a Holiday Wish List by Anne Einerson, and I really enjoyed this one and gave it 4 stars. So this is a new holiday novella. This one has so many tropes. So it has billionaire hero, she's his secretary. I think there's age gap. It also has it's going back to her small town in Maine. There is fake dating, grumpy sunshine vibes, like all the things. So basically in this one, the heroine is the secretary for the hero. He has always been into her since the day of hiring her, but he decides to like push that away and just have like a work relationship with her. But he's definitely a workaholic, and he makes her work all the time too. But this year she's decided that she's going to use her time off and go home for the holidays and spend it with her family. And so he's like, no, this can't happen. Like we need to work through the holidays. So he decides he's going to join her and come with her, stay at like a local hotel where they can like do some work during the day. So they get to her family's house, and she's like, please don't tell them like you're my boss. Like they already think I'm a workaholic and I've said the worst things about you. So like, let's just pretend you're my friend. And so when they get there, he decides to tell her family that he's her boyfriend. And so then her mom is like, oh my God, like if he's your boyfriend, then obviously he's not staying at a hotel. Like he's going to stay in our house and stay in your room with you. This is one of those where it just felt like a holiday Hallmark movie, but like in the best way. Like it was exactly what it promised. It delivered on everything that I expected it to. Like it read exactly as it sounds, and it just like delivered. Like it was the perfect read, perfect length, like not too long, not trying too hard. Like it was just a great holiday novella. So I definitely recommend it. Next is A Little Magic by Lindsay Lanza, and I love this one so much. I gave it 4.5 stars. It's definitely a new holiday favorite for me. So this one has a ton of tropes. So let's see. It is second chance romance, brother's best friend. It has chronic illness rep. The heroine has lupus. Is childhood friends to lovers. They get snowed in. And it has both Hanukkah and Christmas rep because the heroine and her family are Jewish, and the hero, of course, celebrates Christmas. So we have a lot going on in this one, and it worked so well for me. I definitely recommend checking this out. The audio is on Libby and Hoopla. I grabbed it on Hoopla because Libby had to wait. so definitely check that out if you can. This one is told in a dual timeline, and I really, really loved the past chapters of seeing the hero and the heroine as childhood friends and kind of this friend group that they had with her brother when they were younger. I loved seeing how sweet and caring the hero was with her when she was growing up. Like, he taught her how to make snow angels and how to ice skate and how to play video games, and they just had like so many cute and charming moments as kids, which I loved. We see them kind of get older, they become teens, they start to have some feelings for one another, and we get to see them have this like secret relationship that her brother and family don't know about. And it was just so good. I really appreciated too, like in the flashback moments when they are teens, like we know they're doing things, but we don't have to hear about it or see it on page, which I really appreciated from the author. We also see the heroine have like a complicated relationship with her mother. Like I said, the heroine has lupus, and so her mother has definitely tried to protect her and keep her in this bubble, who kind of want to control everything about her daughter's life and make sure she doesn't get any sicker and things like that, which I mean, I get, but at the same time for the heroine, like she's trying to live her life, and her mom definitely has these kind of like rules that she has to follow and just wants to keep her very isolated, very much in this like protective bubble. So we have that going on as well. I will say, like, this would have been 5 stars for me, but I was really annoyed with what kind of happened and kept them apart in the past, or what split them up, I should say. Like, you could see it coming, but it was just so frustrating how it played out. That part really irked me. Like, otherwise this would have been a 5-star read. But I mean, it was just so good, so sweet. I loved the couple together so much. Definitely recommend checking it out. I gave it 4.5 stars. Then I read Where We Started by Ashley Munoz. I had heard so many friends that loved this one, and I wanted to check it out as well. And I'm so glad I did, because I loved it and gave it 4.5/5 stars. This is a small town MC romance with childhood friends to lovers, and it is second chance as well, and it is just so good. I loved it so much. So this one, the hero and the heroine have definitely different upbringings. Basically, the heroine is the daughter of the president of the local MC club, and so she's raised around this kind of like MC clubhouse, and her father being a president and putting the MC family first, or so she thinks. And so we see her as a young girl finding out that her new neighbor has this like tree house. And so she goes over there to kind of get some peace and quiet one night. I think she's like 9 years old. And that's when she meets the hero, who is that age as well. And they become these like childhood friends as she kind of goes over to his tree house every night to kind of escape the noise that's happening at her house. And so similar to the previous book, we see them become these friends when they're children, and as they become teenagers, they grow into something more as feelings, you know, evolve from there. The heroine in this one, the whole time, like, she doesn't want to become a part of the MC world. She wants to leave that behind. She's so tired of everybody putting the MC family first above her, and so she's very determined to keep the hero away from that world. But we see some things kind of evolve with that, where he does become a part of the MC family and becomes a member and things like that. So we know that they have split up. Well, in present day, we see the heroine kind of come back to town for her father's funeral, and we're finding out in the will that she's actually been left the land and the clubhouse and her family's property, and the hero is now the new president of the MC. And so he's like, excuse me, what? So it definitely has this very like hateful vibe to their relationship now. The tension and the chemistry between these two was so good. I was obsessed with this book. I loved it so much. Like I mentioned, it's the first time I've read from this author, and I can't wait to check out more from her. I hope she continues this MC series, because I am along for the ride. I loved it so much. I will say some of the pacing for the plot kind of felt off sometimes, or wasn't really my favorite, but that was like honestly my only issue with it. I really enjoyed this one. I think for sure if you want kind of a lighter MC romance, or maybe you're just getting into MC, this is a good starter one. It's like dark-ish, but not like super dark that other MC series are. So yeah, definitely recommend it. Definitely check it out. Next, I read Forever Her Duke by Scarlett Scott. So this is a new one and a new series from her. This author, I swear, she has so many series and it's hard to keep up with them all. But this is the start of her new Duke's Most Wanted series that just dropped this month. So this is actually a historical romance novella, and this one I gave 3 stars to. This one is Brother's Best Friend. It's a historical romance, and it has a marriage in trouble / second chance for a married couple. So basically in here, the hero and the heroine, they grew up with one another, with her brother as well. They were all kind of friends. And then the hero had some feelings for the heroine. And when she kind of had her debut into society and turned 18, he went to her brother and asked him like, hey, can I start courting your sister? Like, I think I have feelings for her. Like, I feel like I could love her. So his best friend / her brother said, no, like, stay away from my sister. How dare you? Like, don't ever go near her. So the hero kind of always pushed away his feelings, and we see like 7 years go by, and the best friend actually ends up passing away. And so while they're both grieving together, the hero and the heroine actually give in and have a moment of weakness, I guess, where they finally like give into their feelings and have a night together. And so since she's now like compromised, the hero decides to marry her. And then the day after their wedding, he actually ends up leaving because he feels guilty again and takes off for a year. And so now he's back in her life, and she's like, excuse me, what? Like, how dare you? This one, the setup sounded really good, but I kind of wanted a little bit more. I felt like the heroine just gave in a little too quickly for everything, and I kind of wanted some more time spent with him. Like, it is a novella, so I get why it was quick, but yeah, it was okay. Like, I wasn't super sold by their romance, and yeah, it's super steamy, but like, it didn't super work for me, so 3 stars. And then lastly, I read Mafia Virgin by Mila Finelli. This is the 5th book in the Kings of Italy series. I think it's supposed to be the last book. And this one was an arranged/forced marriage. There's also a bunch of breeding kink in here with the hero and the heroine. They have to get pregnant to appease this like mafia bosses. And so yeah, this one I gave 4 stars to. The series has kind of had some hits and misses for me. My favorite books are book 3 and 1. And then this book kind of falls in the middle for me. Like, it was better than the previous book, but not like a favorite in the series, if that makes sense. Basically, this one started off super strong. I was super into it. It was flying by, but then the last half kind of just fell apart for me. This one, the heroine is the youngest sister of the previous 2 heroines in the series. They're all from the same family. And so basically there is this arranged marriage that has to happen between her and the hero because some of their families are like at war. And so one of like big mafia dons in Italy want to like kind of smooth over these like business fights by joining the families through marriage. So it becomes this like forced marriage. And then he decides to tell them they also have to provide a baby within like 3 months or 6 months, something like that. So it kind of goes from there. Like I said, it was okay, the setup at first, but then I felt like the love kind of came in a little too quickly. They easily give in to starting to have this like physical relationship, which was fine at first, but then after a while I'm like, okay, like what else is there to this relationship besides like the physical side? I didn't really see them spending time together besides that, but yet then they're declaring love for one another. So I felt like that was kind of out of nowhere. The last half kind of like just started to lose me as well. I wasn't as interested. So I don't know, maybe it's more like 3.5 stars. So we'll see. 3.5/4 stars, I guess. It is a fun mafia series. It's entertaining. So I don't know, take that for what it is. All right, so those are the 21 books that I've read so far in December. Like I said, there's been some hits, there's been some misses, there's been some new favorites. So I can't wait to see what else December brings for the end of the year. Let me know in the comments what you've been loving for December so far. If you had any new favorite reads, if you've read any of the books that I just talked about, I'd love to know. If you haven't done so yet, make sure to like and subscribe so you don't miss out on any of my future videos, and I'll see you in my next one.